Hey, if you like my videos, you might also like my comedy series YouTube Blue, which premieres every Saturday on the YouTube Blue YouTube channel. Go check out the link in the description and the card above to watch the latest episode. Now on with the video. Superheroes are something I've talked about on this channel since the beginning, and lost media is something I've been talking about on this channel since, well, last month when I made a lost media video out of curiosity that is now my most viewed video. So, I thought, hey, let's talk about some superhero lost media. So here you go, 5 pieces of superhero lost media. A lot of these are older pieces of media you might not know about. But if you stick around to the end, there's going to be a whole ass feature film from the last 20 years that's completely lost. So anyway, let's get started with Andy Warhol's Batman movie. In 1964, Andy Warhol produced and directed a Batman feature film in which he fights Dracula. Some people refer to this movie as Batman Dracula, though in promotional material for the movie, I've only seen it referred to as Batman, so Batman Dracula seems to be a name either used internally by people making the movie or by fans in retrospect. Jack Smith portrayed both Batman and Dracula in the movie, and having them fight is interesting, though it is pretty common. There had been one earlier Batman story where he fought a vampire, though it wasn't specifically Dracula, and there have been many times since this movie where Batman does fight Dracula. This wasn't an official Batman film though, it was essentially a fan film. Though it feels harsh to call it a fan film when it was made by a prominent director with big actors. The film was never actually completed. It completed filming but was never edited together. Apparently footage from it has been shown at Andy Warhol's art exhibits from time to time, but it's never been fully released. It was thought to be lost for a long time until clips from it surfaced in 2006 in a documentary on Jack Smith called Jack Smith and the Destruction of Atlantis. Since then, some other clips have surfaced and we have a combined total of about 40% of the film. However, it's likely it survived somewhere. My best guess after some scant research was that it was auctioned to the Andy Warhol Museum in Pittsburgh after his death and is sitting in their archives. Personally, I think it'd be really cool if Warner Brothers got in contact with Warhol's estate and maybe edited and restored the movie as an HBO Max original. I think tons of people would be interested in seeing that, and Warner Brothers could make a large donation to the Andy Warhol Foundation for the Visual Arts in return. The late 60s was big for both Marvel and DC on TV. Marvel had a few cartoons on the air, though the only one that was a large success was their Spider-Man cartoon. Meanwhile, at DC, they had the Adam West Batman show doing pretty well, and cartoons featuring both Superman and Aquaman were very successful as well. In 1967, Filmation Animation, the company behind both the New Adventures of Superman and the recently debuted Aquaman, was looking for more DC properties to adapt for TV. Scripts were written for pilots based on Wonder Woman and Plastic Man, though one pilot that did get made was Metamorpho. Never heard of Metamorpho? Well, he is a character that first appeared in the Brave and the Bold comic series in 1965. He was kind of a tongue-in-cheek parody of the fantastic superheroes of the time. The fact that he was created by Bob Haney, who was also in charge of Metal Men for a while and co-created Doom Patrol, should tell you everything you need to know. He was pretty popular right out of the gate, leading to many other appearances in the Brave and the Bold, leading to his own comic series that ran from 1965 to 1968. Given that he was a popular character at the time and was a parody character, meaning his show could be in the same style as the Adam West Batman series, he was a shoo-in to be adapted for a cartoon. A pilot episode is confirmed to have been produced in 1968, and legend has it that they may have made up to 6 episodes before the plug was pulled. Why? Well, the Adam West Batman show was ending, and Filmation had the animation rights to Batman, so they immediately greenlit a Batman cartoon, and they ended up diverting the animation team from Metamorpho to Batman to make sure it came out while he was still relevant. However, this apparently didn't work, because the Batman cartoon they did, The Adventures of Batman, only lasted 1 season, though to be fair, restrictions on kids' cartoons at the time may have had something to do with its cancellation, considering that it had action and violence and it had a kid superhero, Robin. While the pilot at least has been confirmed to exist, it's never seen the light of day. Fast forwarding to the 70s, it's time to talk about a corner of the Spider-Man mythos that few talk about. Spidey Super Stories. Spidey Super Stories was a series of shorts that aired as a part of the PBS children's series The Electric Company, beginning with Season 4 in 1974 through Season 6 in 1977. The shorts featured the first official live-action appearance of Spider-Man, played in suit by Danny Seagren. No alter ego of Peter Parker was shown, however. Instead, the character was used to teach kids how to read. Basically, they used the fact that Spider-Man's costume design didn't have a visible mouth to say that Spider-Man couldn't talk, and communicated using comic book word balloons. Pretty smart if you ask me. This does kind of imply, to me at least, that this isn't actually Spider-Man, but instead more of a drawing of Spider-Man that's come to life. Marvel apparently gave PBS the rights to use Spider-Man in the Electric Company for free. This initially sounds like a company being really nice and letting them do this so kids could learn how to read through public television that any kid could watch. But like most things, it was driven by profits. Really, Marvel just did this in exchange for the rights to produce a Spidey Super Stories comic to tie in. This meant that kids would watch the Electric Company and then buy the comic, which was purposefully made more accurate to Spider-Man from the comics and featured Marvel comic villains that weren't in the Electric Company so that kids would then buy other Marvel comics. Hook 'em while they're young, you know? Anyway, a lot of these shorts are lost. The Electric Company itself has a lot of lost episodes, given it only has a few DVD releases. As such, because of rights issues, only a few Spidey Super Stories segments have been released on DVD. The others we know of have been taped by other people as the show is airing, meaning they're often low quality, even in black and white. The worst part is we don't know how many were produced. Around a dozen were made each for seasons 4 and 5, and an unknown number were made for season 6. Who knows if they'll ever turn up. Remember how I said that Batman fighting Dracula wasn't an idea that was unique to Andy Warhol? Well, the next piece of media I'm going to talk about also used it. Batman Fights Dracula was a 1967 movie made in the Philippines. This was an unlicensed film, but it was released theatrically. There are plenty of examples of countries with lax copyright enforcement producing bootleg movies based on pre-existing characters. Enough to perhaps make an entire YouTube video about them, hint hint. The problem is that the characteristics that led these movies to be made also mean they're not well preserved. All that remains of Batman Fights Dracula is promotional material. The chances of this being found are kind of low, but it's possible. Believe it or not, this was actually the last in a trilogy of unlicensed Filipino Batman movies of the late 60s. In 1965, the also lost alias Batman at Robin was produced, and in 1966, a combined Batman and James Bond spoof called James Batman was made, which actually survived. You can watch it on YouTube, and it's a bit of a trip. Last but not least is Big Bug Man, an animated film from the mid-2000s that was never released. This movie, about a man named Howard Kind who gains superpowers from being bitten by a bunch of bugs, was produced from 2004 to 2006, and was originally supposed to be released in 2006. However, while the release date kept getting pushed back through to 2008, there have been no updates since on the film's release. I'll probably make a whole video about this at some point. It starred Brendan Fraser as Howard Kind and Michael Madsen in an unspecified role. It's notable for being the final role of Marlon Brando, who played Mrs. Sour, a minor character that only appeared in 3 scenes, but the marketing team decided to lean on him being in the movie anyway. He recorded his parts in June of 2004, less than a month before his death. According to news articles, the movie was supposed to be completed by the end of 2005, though there's technically no confirmation that the movie is finished, even though the voices were recorded. All we have of the movie is a poster, some concept art and stills, and a brief recording of Marlon Brando's voice that you can hear in a CNN story about the movie. Other than that, it remains lost. So there you go, 5 lost pieces of superhero media. Which one of these would you like to see found? Let me know in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe for daily videos on the franchises you love, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.